Boris, man up, open up the workplace pilot to the entirety of this country. Let's free the private sector. Let's get the economy moving. Let's secure people in their jobs. And I think the time has come to make that move. It may be bold. Some may think it's actually taking excessive risk, but it isn't, is it? Because we'll use the lateral flow testing system, which is plentiful and very, very cheap. So man up, Boris. Show some leadership. The country, particularly the private sector, desperately needs it right now. It's Freedom Day. I bet you're all out there celebrating and having a fantastic time. Well, I have to say, I did manage, without a face mask, to go into a pub and order a pint of beer, so some little degree of normality. And I know last night at midnight, nightclubs were open, people were out dancing, and there was some jollity. And of course, we're told now that sporting events can happen, but hey, you know what? I was at Wembley for the final, and there must have been about 250,000 people out there, so not too much has changed there. We've had big crowds at golf, big crowds at Silverstone too. So it isn't that much of a Freedom Day. Well, it certainly isn't a Freedom Day at all, especially if you've been hit. If you've been pinged by this mad app. Yes, it is a mad app because you can be pinged through a brick wall because somebody in the next flat or apartment has tested positive. And we're now in a very funny place. There are about 1.7 million people right now who are isolating at home as a result of the NHS app. There are nearly 500,000 people who've gone to France on holiday, believing that because they've been double jabbed, which of course we were told again and again was the route to salvation, and they now find when they come back, they will have to isolate for up to 10 days. So there's a lot of people out there having a tough time. And let's not forget, for one moment, the private sector. You see, it's the private sector that have paid the cost of this from the very beginning. If you work in the public sector, you will not lose your job. If you work in the public sector, you will not lose your pension. But if you work in the private sector, you may well lose both. And right now we have factories whose production lines are threatened. Restaurants, pubs closing as a result of staff being forced to isolate. Now, yesterday morning, the pingdemic got very much closer to the heart of government when Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, having been in close contact with Sajid Javid, the health secretary, who had tested positive for coronavirus, suddenly were told that they would have to isolate. But there was a loophole. Yes, a very useful loophole, where they could have a workplace pilot scheme, which would mean they could go to work and take a lateral flow test, and provided after 8 or 10 minutes when they got the result it was okay, get on with their work. But no, what did they do? In response to public pressure, in response to the charge that would have been made that it's one rule for them and it's one rule for us, in response to all of that, they decided they would isolate. And so we have, of course, tonight the Prime Minister giving us his Freedom Day address whilst in isolation at Chequers. I mean, you couldn't really make this stuff up, could you? But I think they both got it wrong, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. I think they should have gone to work today. I really, honestly, truly do. And they should have said that the workplace pilot will be extended this week out to every single private company in this country, where staff, if they've been pinged, can go, get a lateral flow test, and provided they test negative. And most of them, of course, will be double jabbed anyway. And they can carry on working, and those production lines would keep going, the pubs would keep open, and indeed the restaurants too. So I want Boris Johnson to start showing a bit of leadership, to stop being blown around by events, this sort of endless dither and chaos. Boris, man up, open up the workplace pilot to the entirety of this country. Let's free the private sector, let's get the economy moving, let's secure people in their jobs, and I think the time has come to make that move. It may be bold, some may think it's actually taking excessive risk, but it isn't, is it? Because we'll use the lateral flow testing system, which is plentiful and very, very cheap. So man up, Boris, show some leadership. The country, particularly the private sector, desperately needs it right now.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.